Hi, welcome to A Chef Called Rhonda. I'm Rhonda and this is my kitchen. And today I'm going to be showing you how to make Italian wedding cookies. The most simplest of cookies with a wonderful presentation and a big old world flavor. With only 6 ingredients, it's super simple to make, super healthy, well, and super delicious. Stay with me while I show you how to make the authentic Italian wedding cookie. Super simple, only 6 ingredients. I have 1.5 room temperature softened plant-based butter. Can you see that? 3 teaspoons of Mexican vanilla. It's the finest quality vanilla. I have 3/4 cup of powdered sugar. 3/4 cup powdered sugar. I have 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. And I have 1.25 cups of finely chopped, in this case to save time, I already food processed, 1.25 cups of your raw almonds. And in this case I used sliced almonds in my food processor for about 45 seconds. And finally I have 3 cups of all-purpose flour, which I previously sifted. And the first step is to add our butter to our preparation bowl. And as you can see here, I have my trusty wooden spoon. Now my butter stayed out at room temperature for about 2 hours, so it can completely soften. See that? And I'll be using a wooden spoon. I'll be making this cookie authentically without using a hand mixer. Now, at this time, I invite you to grab your hand mixer and feel free to use that. Next, to the softened butter, I'm going to add Mexican vanilla right over the softened butter. So we're breaking apart our butter, and let me bring this up close to you. Grandmother taught me to incorporate the vanilla with the softened butter prior to adding the sugar. So I'm going to take my extra large fork. I think this fork has made an appearance in one of our previous recipes. So if you're a subscriber, first and foremost, I thank you for that. And secondly, you'll get to know my kitchen tools. They're very minimal but effective. I have my large tine fork, and I'm going now to scrape the back of my wooden spoon. And I'm going to use the tines of this fork to really whip the butter and the vanilla prior to adding that confectionery sugar. And the smell is heavenly. We have our vanilla and our butter together here. Can you see that? Now it's time to add our confectionery sugar. 3/4 cup right into butter and vanilla mixture. Take the back edge of the spoon now. This is crucial here. A spoon is a wonderful tool. It has many uses. At this time, I'm going to take the back of the spoon and I'm going to manipulate the sugar into that butter so that it becomes creamy and consistent. A nice, creamy, consistent batter will begin to form. Okay, so we're just going to give it about 200 strokes. And you may remember that methodology of cooking from years ago, right? Before the high-end KitchenAid mixers came into our kitchens. How did we make our cookies? We did it all by hand, and I still take pride in making cookies by hand and using the wooden spoons. And the back of the spoon, again, will help to break apart and break away any little bits of that powdered sugar. And I'm going to just, you can hear it, how it's coming together. It's key important, though, to make sure your butter has come down sufficiently to room temperature. It's time to add our salt. And that was 1/4 teaspoon. Salt helps to bring out the flavor of the vanilla and the butter and the sugar. Show you the batter, the beginning. And next, it's time to add our almonds. And incidentally, if you're not inclined to add the almond, it's completely optional. You can omit them. Now it's time to turn our almonds into this mixture. I coat the almonds with this nice batter. I'm going to slowly add our 3 cups of all-purpose flour. So prior to adding the all-purpose flour, I did utilize my spatula to just take down the sides of our bowl. Now that our almonds have been added, you can see the little bits and little specks of goodness from the almond there. Unsalted almonds, by the way. And now it's time to add our 3 cups of all-purpose flour slowly into our creamed butter, vanilla, sugar, and almond mixture. Meanwhile, back at the stove, I have preheated our oven to 325, and these little cookies will cook for about 12 to 15 minutes depending on your stove, or just until golden brown on the bottom. So now it's time to add our all-purpose flour. I'm adding probably 1 cup at a time, and I do have my spoon here next to me, but meanwhile I'm just going to utilize this nice spatula here to first incorporate the flour. And the dough, the cookie dough, is starting to form. And again, I was speaking a little bit about the silicone spatula here. It's bendable, so it helps me to get right into that dough mixture, because at this point we're working. Next, we'll add our remaining flour, about 3/4 cup, and we'll bring it right into the cookie dough mixture. It has come together very nicely, like so. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get in with my hands, and I do wear vinyl gloves here. I have just about a tablespoon of flour here, and I'm just going to rub my hands with it, and I'm just going to form a ball of cookie dough. See that? I wish you could smell it. That's our cookie dough. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place it on top of that saran wrap, like so. And I'm just going to tie it up, close it up nicely on the edges, and I'm going to pop this in the refrigerator for about 20 minutes until it chills and it has a little time to marinate, so that the sugar and the vanilla and the butter can come together nicely and really have that big flavor of that Italian wedding cookie. I would like to show you at this time our 2 prepared cookie sheets. One I have lined with parchment paper. Yes, you can do that. And then one I have your traditional Silpat lined cookie sheet. And this recipe will yield about approximately 36 cookies. I like to roll the cookies by hand. I take about 1 to 1 tablespoon of cookie dough right in the center of my hand, creating what resembles a ball. So I'll put them about 2.5 inches apart, between 2.5 inches apart, onto the cookie sheet, like so. And they will make a total of 36 cookies. And they'll bake at 325. I've already preheated the oven to 325 degrees. And they will bake for between 10 and 14 minutes or so until the bottom's a golden brown. I like the authenticity of hand rolling, is that cookie tray, that extra presentation performance, if you will. Okay, so here's our first sheet of our yet-to-be Italian wedding cookies. This is our first sheet. Can you see them? And you can see the little specks of almonds. Okay. So that's our first cookie sheet. We have 24 here. I'd like to say a big hello to all my subscribers. And if you haven't already subscribed to A Chef Called Rhonda, please would you do so, or consider doing so. If you like super healthy, super delicious, super fun recipes, then A Chef Called Rhonda is a place for you. And from my kitchen to yours, it's always fun, always healthy, always delicious. So please subscribe down below to A Chef Called Rhonda. Our 2 cookie sheets all ready and prepared for our Italian wedding cookies to be baked at 325 for between 12 and 15 minutes, or just until golden brown. So while the cookies are baking, I wanted to make mention on how we finalize and decorate them. I have about 2¼ cups of confectionery sugar, powdered sugar, and I take a preparation bowl and I just place it in here. I have 2 wire racks that I will let the cookies semi-cool. To note that this cookie should be slightly cooled, but yet still a tad warm, because we'll be placing the cookies inside the powdered sugar. Can you see that? The confectionery sugar. And we want the warmth from the cookie to grab onto the powdered sugar. Thus, so I just removed the cookies from the oven, and I want to show you exactly what they look like on the bottom when we take them out. The kitchen smells heavenly. You can smell the aroma from the creaminess of the butter and the powdered sugar mixed with the vanilla. And they should be golden brown, just like so. Just to cool. I have asbestos hands, by the way, right? And I'm just going to put them here on the wire rack, and I'll let them cool for about 10 minutes, and then it will be time to dredge them in our powdered sugar. So just break it in in half, and I wanted to bring it up close so you can see exactly what it should look like. And this is pre-powdered sugar stage, and it should be moist. Where are you? It should be moist, still tad warm. I'm just going to place maybe a half dozen at a time into the confectionery sugar bowl. I'm going to take my spoon and I'm going to turn the sugar into the cookie, like so. Vakusi, 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 vakusi. And you're just turning, and yes, you can do it by hand too. You can do it by hand, and there we have it. That's our first snowball, or Italian wedding cookie, or Italian wedding cookie making. The cookies are still warm on the first roll. Now, that first roll, the cookie should sit for about 7 or 8 minutes on your wired rack. So it's already powdered sugared one time, like so. The heat from the cookie, or the remaining warmth from the cookie, will act as a melting effect. And that'll be our first coat. When the cookies are finally cooled, in about 20 minutes or so, I will re-roll them, and it will give it a nice brushed, almost like that first fall of snow, or the first snowfall, like that powdered sugared look, real pretty and really dainty. And these cookies are wonderful for baby showers, bridal showers, weddings, and they make such a beautiful appearance. Okay, so I'm going to continue to roll the cookies and then re-roll the cookies, and then I'll meet you back here for Rhonda's recipe recap. Okay, here we are. Welcome back to A Chef Called Rhonda. We are finito. Our Italian wedding cookies are a complete recipe recap. And before I go into our recipe recap, that was funny, wasn't it? Ha ha ha. You gotta laugh a little, guys. I'd like to give you a little bit of history about the Italian wedding cookie. Well, the Italian wedding cookie is a huge Italian tradition at Italian weddings, hence the name Italian wedding cookie. And yes, I do have my trusty wooden spoon here. And if you're a subscriber to A Chef Called Rhonda, you know how much I love our wooden spoons. Here's my newest. Okay, so the Italian wedding cookie is a classic Neapolitan cookie brought over from the Campania region to the States. And it holds a very prominent place at the Italian wedding. The Italian weddings typically have, yes, the bride and groom Italian wedding cake, very ornate, but there's a separate entity. There's a cookie table, the Italian cookie table. And the guests love to stare and loom over all the beautiful selections. This cookie, the Italian wedding cookie, is front and center on that cookie table. Now guests wait all evening long for the MC at the wedding to declare and invite the guests to the cookie table to make their selections of cookie to go with their cafe, or their espresso, or their frangelico, or whatever. But they have to wait until they're invited to the cookie table to grab. Now, isn't that a little bit of rich history? Okay, it's time for Rhonda's recipe recap. But first, I am going to make that beloved call to action. If you haven't subscribed to A Chef Called Rhonda, would you please consider doing so? It would be greatly appreciated. My recipes are always healthy and delicious. And the ingredients are as follows. We had 1.5 cups of European unsalted butter, brought down sufficiently to room temperature. In addition to that, I opted to add minced or mealy almonds to this recipe. I added 1.5 cups of sliced raw unsalted almonds, which I food processed. In addition to that, I had 3/4 cup confectionery sugar, salt, and 4 3/4 teaspoons of vanilla, high quality vanilla. And if you're a subscriber to A Chef Called Rhonda and you've been watching and loyal to this channel, you know what type of vanilla I love to use. It's Mexican vanilla. Yes, I had 4 3/4 teaspoons of Mexican. In addition to the 4 3/4 teaspoons of Mexican vanilla, I had 3 cups of all-purpose flour. I sifted the flour. You do not have to sift the flour. That said, at the end, I had a cup and a half to 2 cups in a reserved bowl for rolling the cookies at the end of the recipe. Meanwhile, I had preheated my oven to 325, and I would bake them for between 12 and 15 minutes. I had 2 cookie sheets because this recipe will yield thereabouts between 36 and 48 cookies, depending on the size in which you roll your cookie. I had lined the cookie sheets with 1 parchment paper, and I had a Silpat to show you that both avenues will work. A Silpat will work perfectly for this cookie, as well as parchment paper. And toward that end, we rolled our cookies warmly into the powdered sugar and waited about 5 to 8 minutes thereafter to roll them a second time, and then plated them beautifully. And there we are, our Italian wedding cookies. And now the best part is yet to come, the taste test. It wouldn't be a chef called Rhonda if we didn't take a big bite out of our Italian wedding cookie. Here's to you. Cheers. Oh. Simply sweet, so creamy and toasty. And that little bit of goodness from that almond, that toasty little bit of just, you can feel the warmth from the almond and the sweetness. Oh, chin down to you. Well, thanks again. I hope that you have enjoyed this cooking show as much as I've enjoyed producing it for you. Please, if you haven't subscribed to a chef called Rhonda. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. And as always, from my kitchen to yours, chin down. Salute. Bye. 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 Don't forget to hit the like button down below and subscribe to a chef called Rhonda. It's always healthy and delicious. Cheers.